I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing it. So let's just get it over with. Every time WWE presents us with a Saudi Arabia show, and I mean every single time, it is terrible. Because it's nothing more than a glorified house show, but it's booked worse than an actual house show. This is the 4th consecutive year that WWE has presented us with a Saudi Arabia show. This time around, it's going to be Crown Jewel 2021, and I can guarantee that at least one of the matches from this show will be on the list of the worst matches of 2021. That's how it's been for every other Saudi show, because they're all terrible. And even though this card does look somewhat promising with Big E's first title defense, Seth Rollins and Edge going up against each other inside Hell in a Cell, a good Queen's Crown tournament. It should be called Queen of the Ring, and why did they eliminate Liv Morgan in the first round? Why? Anyway, a good Queen's Crown tournament, good King of the Ring tournament, Brock Lesnar coming back to face Roman Reigns. I know we've seen that before, but this time as Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. It is going to be different. Goldberg, I guess. But yeah, this card does look somewhat promising, but looks can be deceiving. That's how it's been for every single Saudi show because, again, they're all terrible. Not gonna lie, this was a tough list to make. I don't know why I made it, but I made it. So let's just do it. And I'm gonna be sad at the end of this. I'm Jackson Haney from Insane Internet Wrestling, and here are the 5 worst Saudi Arabia matches in WWE history.
Number 5, Lars Sullivan versus Lucha House Party, Super Showdown 2019.
God, we're starting off strong, aren't we? Okay, so for those of you who don't know who Lars Sullivan was, firstly, I don't blame you. Secondly, he was a monster gimmick that WWE tried to get over on the main roster, and that NXT had successfully gotten over on the black and gold brand. Let me put it to you this way. Remember that 5-star ladder match for the North American title at TakeOver New Orleans back a few years ago? Lars Sullivan was a key player in that match. And when they called him up the night after WrestleMania 35, oh no. In his entire stint with the main roster, which really didn't last that long because he spent the majority of it on the bench, but he had one notable feud during his entire run. And that was with Lucha House Party, and it culminated in one of the worst matches I've ever seen. The booking was nonsensical. Firstly, they decided to have it at a Saudi show, so you already know it was going to be terrible. Then they decided to have Lucha House Party, the babyfaces, take on Sullivan in a 3-on-1 handicap match, and have Lucha House Party, the babyfaces, cheat just to keep up with this big monster character that should be dominant as heck. The babyfaces, Lucha House Party, gang up on Lars Sullivan and force a disqualification just to have Sullivan beat them up after the match. And then, whoops, Sullivan's injured, back on the bench you go, and we're going to release you a few months later. No one came out of this looking good. It was Sullivan's first and only match on the main roster. It was one of the last times that Lucha House Party had gotten an actual match on pay-per-view that wasn't a tag team match. And no one came out of it looking good. It was completely irrelevant. And this is only number 5. I'm slightly terrified.
Number 4, Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet, Super Showdown 2020.
I watched this happen, and it infuriated me. Now, people throw around the term burial a lot in wrestling. When their favorite wrestler loses, they like to say, oh my god, they got buried by that guy. They were supposed to at least have a good showing, but they didn't. They got buried. They say that a lot, and it really hasn't applied to anything in recent years. But this match, this was a burial. I'd like to pause for a moment just to ask WWE, ask the people behind this match, whoever they may be. I want to ask them one question. How do you screw up Ricochet? It's Ricochet, one of the most talented wrestlers on the face of the earth. You like to have guys that can do flippy bits. You have Jeff Hardy on your roster, WWE. Ricochet versus Jeff Hardy would be great. You wouldn't screw up Ricochet for that, now would you? You have Ricochet booked to challenge Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. And fans all around the world know this. They know that Ricochet is not going to win, but oh my god, this match is going to be so much fun because Brock Lesnar has some of his best match with smaller guys. Daniel Bryan, Finn Balor, etc. So Ricochet should be a perfect opponent for Brock Lesnar. No, they had him get no offense in and Brock Lesnar beat him in a minute and a half. This was an actual burial. Again, no offense from Ricochet. 100% of the offense was from Brock Lesnar, and they had the match end in a minute and a half. When I should mention that this match was for the WWE Championship, the month before WrestleMania. Ricochet is one of my favorite wrestlers on the entire roster, and it just makes me incredibly infuriated when I look at this match. It's just...
Number 3, DX versus the Brothers of Destruction, Crown Jewel 2018.
You know that Michael Cole meme that says "Stop the Pain"? That's what I want to happen right now, because they brought Shawn Michaels, the guy who had quite possibly the most perfect retirement in the history of wrestling. And they brought him out of retirement for a Saudi show with, a month or two of build. And they had what was supposed to be 15 minutes go half an hour. I mean, sure, Undertaker tagging in and standing off against Shawn Michaels was nostalgic, sure, and it provided for a really good pop. But is that 5-minute portion of the match that lasted half an hour supposed to make it better? No, it's not. Most people watch wrestling for the wrestling, and the wrestling here was garbage. Because every single person in this match was over the age of 50. I mean, sure, Michaels can still hit a moonsault. Fair enough. But Kane and The Undertaker combined are at least 100 years old. So, yeah, it's rough. They never should have had this match. They never should have brought Shawn out of retirement. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and say it right now. Crown Jewel 2018 never happened.
Number 2, Goldberg versus The Fiend, Super Showdown 2020.
Just, please. Why did I do this? Okay, let's talk about The Fiend again. I've talked about it before. I've talked about how WWE has screwed up The Fiend, and if you want to see that, click here. And if you don't want to see that, and you just want to hear me talk right now, good. Strap in. I'm about to get angry. You knew it was going to be bad when they brought Goldberg back after a match that, trust me, I'm going to get to. And they had him challenge The Fiend for the Universal Championship, a title that he had won at the previous Saudi show. Side note, that match, Rollins versus Fiend at Crown Jewel 2019, wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, far from it, but it was a lot better than their Hell in a Cell match. It was serviceable. This was not. It had, 3 spots? Spear, mandible claw, botched jackhammer, let's go home. Literally, that's it. It's just baffling to think that WWE had the best character in wrestling, and their best character since Kane, and they have him lose to a guy who can't even do a jackhammer anymore. Goldberg beat The Fiend with a suplex. That wasn't a jackhammer, that was a suplex. Oh, it just makes me so mad. And we still have one more entry. Oh god. Oh my god, I know what that entry is.
Number 1, The Undertaker versus Goldberg, Super Showdown 2019.
Oh my god, I hate it. I hate wrestling. I hate wrestling so much. This is not only the worst match in Saudi Arabia history, not only the worst WWE match of the past 5 years, but it's possibly one of the worst matches of all time. No, it's definitely one of the worst matches of all time. No one came out of this looking good. It was so bad that in the Last Ride documentary, which was made to commemorate the last few years of The Undertaker's legendary career, they had an entire episode dedicated to the fact that this match was nothing. It was literally nothing. It meant nothing, it served no purpose, and it was absolutely garbage. Undertaker hated it. Goldberg hated it so much that he had to beat Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam. And WWE themselves hated this match. Why else would they make the documentary unless they hated it? Like, it was just so bad. Goldberg was in his 50s. Taker was in his late 50s. And Goldberg almost killed The Undertaker with a botched jackhammer. Again, Goldberg cannot do a jackhammer anymore. He was concussed halfway through the match. Got concussed, I think, again on a tombstone from The Undertaker. And Taker won with one of the worst choke slams I've ever seen. Both of the guys were gassed halfway through. Again, Goldberg can't do a jackhammer. Taker can still do a tombstone, but not very well. And Goldberg's fully responsible for that choke slam. That wasn't Taker's fault. And at the end of the match, after the choke slam, Taker just sat there in the ring and did this. That describes it 100%. That describes all of these matches 100%. And just stop the pain. Never do another Saudi show ever again. Just stop it, please.
And that's the list. Did I miss anything? I don't care. If you care, which you shouldn't, tell me in the comments. I guess. Subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Whatever. I can't do this anymore.